friends, welcome to the Point. Let's continue our discussion on India-United States relations. In this particular session, we'll be discussing about the economic relations and the India-US strategic partnership. So talking about the US-India economic relationship, the United States is one of the India's largest direct investors. So from 1991 to 2004, the stock of foreign direct investment inflow has increased from $11 million to $34.4 million, which sums up to a $4.13 billion. So this is a compound rate increase of about 57.5% annually. And Indian direct investments abroad began in the year 1992, and Indian corporations and registered partnership firms are now allowed to invest in business up to 100% of their net worth. And India's largest outgoing investment are in the manufacturing sector, so which accounts for about 54.8% of the country's foreign investment. The second largest are in non-financial services, that is in the software development side, which accounts for about 35.4% of the investment. On August 3rd, 2018, India became the third Asian nation to be granted strategic trade authorization status by the United States. This strategic trade authorization enables the export of high technology products in civil space and defense from the US to India. So the trade relations between India and US. So the US is India's second largest trading partner, and India is its 9th largest trading partner. So in 2017, the US exported $25.7 billion worth of goods to India and imported $48.6 billion worth of Indian goods. So major items imported from India include information technology services, that is IT services, textiles, machinery, gems and diamonds. Apart from this, chemicals are also imported, iron and steel products, coffee, tea and other edible food products. Major American items imported by India include aircraft, fertilizers, computer hardware, scrap metal and medical equipment. So the United States is also India's largest investment partner with a direct investment of $10 billion, which accounts for about 9% of the total foreign investment. And Americans have made notable foreign investments in Asian countries, power generation, telecommunication, ports, roads, petroleum exploration and processing and mining industries. So American imports from India, it amounted to $46.6 billion, or which is about 2% of its overall imports and 15.3% of India's overall exports in 2015. So the 10 major commodities exported from India to US are: the first is gems, precious metals and coins, which accounts for $9.5 billion. And the second is pharmaceuticals, which accounts for $6.1 billion. And the third is of oil, and the export is around $2.8 billion. And the fourth is machinery. This accounts for $2.5 billion. And the fifth is other textiles like own clothing, and this accounts for $2.5 billion. And sixth one is also clothing, that is knot net or a crochet. So this accounts for $2.2 billion. And the seventh one is of organic chemicals. Organic chemicals, this accounts for about $2.1 billion. And the eighth one is of knit or crochet clothing. This accounts for $1.7 billion. And ninth one is of vehicles. So the vehicles exported from India to US are this accounts for $1.4 billion, and the 10th one is of iron or steel products. This accounts for $1.3 billion. So American exports to India amounted for about $20.5 billion, or which is about 5.2% of India's overall imports in 2015. And the 10 major commodities exported from the US to India are gems, machinery, electronic equipments, medical technical equipment, oil, aircraft, spacecraft, plastics, organic chemicals, other chemical goods, fruits and nuts. So in July 2005, President Bush and the Prime Minister Manmohan Singh of India, they created a new program called a Trade Policy Forum. So it is run by a representative from each nation. The United States Trade Representatives was Rob Portman, and the Indian Commerce Secretary, the then Minister of Commerce, Kamal Nath. So the goal of the program is to increase the bilateral trade and the investment flow. So there are 5 main subdivisions of Trade Policy Forum, which also includes the agricultural trade, group, and it has 3 main objectives: agreeing on terms that will allow India to export mangoes to the United States, permitting India's agricultural and processed food products export delivery authority, agricultural and process of Food Products and Export Development Authority to certify Indian products to the standards of the US Department of Agriculture, and executing regulation procedures for approving edible wax on the fruit. So the goals of the tariff and non-tariff barriers group, it include agreeing the insecticides manufactured by the US companies and can be sold throughout India, and India has also agreed to cut special regulations on trading carbonated drinks, many medicinal drugs, and lowering regulations on many imports that are not of an agricultural nature. So both nations have agreed to discuss improved facets of Indian regulation in the trade of jewelry, computer parts, motorcycles, fertilizers, and those tariffs that affect American exporting of boric acid. The group has also discussed matters such as those wishing to break into the accounting market, Indian companies gaining license for the telecommunication industries, and setting policies regarding the Indian media and broadcasting markets. So the other FOSI, it includes exchange of valuable information on recognizing different professional services, discussing the movement and positioning of people in developing industries, continuation of talks on financial services markets, limitation of equities, insurance, retail, joint investment in agriculture, processing and transportation industries, and small business initiatives. So this India and US will sign and has signed a basic exchange and cooperation agreement, the last of the 4 so-called foundational agreement for sharing sensitive information and sales of advancement military hardware during the 2+2 ministerial dialogue on October 27, 2020. India-US strategic partnership. So India and US relations, it got strategic content in early 1960s. So the rise of the People's Republic of China worried the policymakers in Washington, and Chinese assertion in Tibet, its role in the Korean War, and others such acts concerned Washington. As the relation between India and China were heated during the late 50s, the Americans found a golden opportunity to take advantage of this situation to promote India as a counterweight to China. But any unidimensional alliance is bound to be short-lived, and this alliance was no exception to this general rule. So as China ceased to be a headache for the American policymakers by the late 60s, the unidimensional alliance disappeared into thin air. So after the end of Cold War, Indian and American interests converged in a number of areas, including counter-terrorism, promotion of democracy, counter-proliferation, freedom of navigation in the Indian Ocean, and the balance of power in Asia. So as the world's oldest and largest democracies, respectively, the US and the India share historic ties. India is a founding member of the Community of Democracies. India is the founding member of Community of Democracies. So, a prominent endeavor of the United States on the promotion of democracy. However, India rejected the suggestion of the USA about setting up a center for Asian democracy. And Indian Prime Minister Manmohan Singh was the guest of the honor at the first state dinner, so which took place on 24th November 2009 of the administration of US President Barack Obama. And Obama later visited India from 6 to 9 November 2010, signing numerous trade and defense agreements with India. So he addressed the joint session of Indian Parliament in New Delhi, becoming only the second US president to do so, and announced that United States would lend its support to India's bid for a permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council, that is UNSC, signifying the growing strategic dimension of the relationship between the world's two largest democracies. So on 27th October 2020, US-India signed a military agreement on sharing sensitive satellite data. So the Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement, it allows US strategic partners to access a range of sensitive geospatial and aeronautical data which is useful for military actions. So in December 2020, US-India Business Council President Nisha Desai Biswal, she claimed that the ties between the two nations will continue and grow stronger in 2021 as the Biden administration will prioritize their trade deals for a prospering economic relationship. So this is all about India-US relations. See you all in the next session with the topic called India-Japan relations. So we'll be discussing about India-Japan relations in the next session. Thank you.